Okay, so everybody, today we'll talk about a very important system of your body, which is the urinary system. Urinary system is the major excretory system of the body. Most of the toxic chemicals that are produced in your body get out through the urine. Okay, so this system is very important to remove the toxic chemicals out from the body through the urine. First, we'll talk about the parts or organs of the urinary system. Then we'll talk about the functions of the urinary system. Then we'll talk about the anatomy of the kidney. Two kidneys are the main organs of the urinary system. So we'll talk about the kidney. Then we'll talk about the functional unit of the kidney. If I ask you, what is the function of a kidney? Production of what? Urine. Make sense? So the kidney produces urine. And inside the kidney you have about 1 million tiny tube-like structures. Those are called nephrons. And each nephron can produce urine. So that's why nephron is the functional unit of the kidney, because kidney produces urine, right? And kidney has nephrons, tiny structures, and each nephron can produce urine. So that's why it is the functional unit. We'll talk about the nephron. We'll see the parts of a nephron and how it works. Then we'll talk about the capillaries inside the kidney. There are 3 different types of capillaries are present inside the kidney. How many?
3.
3 different types. We'll talk about those 3 different types of capillaries. Then we'll see the process of urine formation, how the urine is formed or produced in the nephron. First, the parts or organs of the urinary system: 2 kidneys, right and left, 2 ureters, 1 urinary bladder, and 1 urethra. Now, if I ask you in one sentence, tell me the function of the kidney. I already mentioned. What is that? Production of urine. Simple, right? If I ask you how, by filtration. So kidneys produce urine by filtration. Make sense? Okay. Then after the urine is produced by the kidneys or in the kidneys, urine is transported or taken to the bladder, urinary bladder. Who take the urine from the kidneys to the bladder?
Urine.
2 tube-like structures. Yes, 2 tubes that take urine from the kidneys to the bladder. Those tubes or tube-like structures are called ureters. So 2 ureters transport the urine from where to where? From the kidneys to the bladder. Is it clear? Then the bladder stores or holds the urine for hours, few to several hours. So urinary bladder holds the urine for few to several hours, which is very important, right? If you don't have the bladder, then what would have happened if you didn't have bladder? kidney is continuously producing urine.
You would just be peeing all the time.
Yeah, all the time. You know, get out from the body. Small amount, but like leaking out, right? That's not comfortable, right? So that's why bladder is very important, right? It holds the urine, and when you desire, you excrete the urine. Urethra takes the urine from the bladder to the outside of the body, to the atmosphere. Urethra part is different in male and female. Other structures are same, only the urethra. Male urethra is much longer than female urethra. Okay? So those are the parts. In this picture, you see the kidneys, bean-shaped structures located in the back part of the abdominal cavity here. And the kidneys are retroperitoneal. Most of the organs are intraperitoneal, inside the peritoneal cavity. Remember that? Most of the structures are like a stomach, small intestine, large intestine, right? Those are inside the peritoneal cavity. There are few organs, those are retroperitoneal. That means what? You must remember, this is your abdominal cavity. Remember the peritoneum, visceral and parietal. So this is parietal, goes in, right? So it covers the organs. So you have most of the organs inside the peritoneal cavity. This is the peritoneal cavity. Few organs, for example kidneys, this is the back of the body, are outside of the peritoneal cavity. Those are called retroperitoneal. Is it clear? Outside or behind the peritoneal cavity. Okay. Now, one thing you see here, this is right kidney, this is left. Right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney. Slightly what? Lower. The reason is, you know, your liver is here, right? So, to give some room to the liver, when the liver is formed, it gets bigger, right? That pushes the kidney downwards, the right kidney. That's why your right kidney is slightly lower than the left, to give space for the liver. Functions. As I have already mentioned, the major excretory system. So, removal of toxic chemicals, number one. Number two, regulation of blood volume. If you drink a lot of water, the blood volume goes up. You know that, right? Water will be taken into the blood, right? And blood volume will go up. And your kidneys will do what? Produce more urine to bring the blood volume back to normal. Make sense? So very simple. Now if you don't drink water for a couple of days, kidneys will produce what? Small concentrated urine. Is it clear? So if you drink a lot of water, to remove excess water from the blood, kidneys will produce more urine. Make sense? If you don't drink water, then kidneys will try to preserve water, right? By producing highly concentrated small volume of urine. Is it clear? So that's how your kidneys regulate the blood volume, maintains the blood volume. Regulation of chemical composition. This is also simple. Excess amount of chemicals in your blood or body will be excreted through the urine. Okay? So, if you know your body produces the chemicals that can cause harm to your body, that excess amount of chemical will be excreted out through the urine. Regulation of pH. This is a very important function. How kidneys or urinary system regulates pH. Now you already know if hydrogen ion concentration increases, what happens to pH? Goes up or down? More hydrogen ion means less pH. Make sense? That means what? If pH goes below 7, it is acidic. Remember that? We talked about that. So if in your blood hydrogen ion concentration goes up, is that good or bad? Not good, right? Your body will become acidic, acidosis, right? So that is not good. We don't want that. So in that case, kidneys will do what? Will excrete excess hydrogen ion. Not all, because your body needs hydrogen ion, right? That excess amount of hydrogen ion would be excreted with the urine. Is it clear? So the pH will not change, will not go down. Is it clear? Okay. So by regulating hydrogen ion concentration, your urinary system regulates pH. Clear? By regulating what? Hydrogen ion. Endocrine function. Your kidneys produce certain chemicals, and those chemicals work as hormones. That's why it is called endocrine functions. Kidneys produce renin and erythropoietin. Those two chemicals. Renin regulates the blood pressure, regulation of blood pressure. If blood pressure drops, goes down, hypotension, kidneys will release renin into the blood, and that renin will do vasoconstriction, generalized vasoconstriction. Okay? If vasoconstriction occurs, blood pressure will go up. Is it clear? You already know that vasoconstriction increases the blood pressure. So that is one function. Erythropoietin. Erythropoietin. Have you heard this name before? Sounds familiar. Okay. So erythrocytes are what? What type of blood cells?
Red blood cells.
Red blood cells are called erythrocytes, right? Leukocytes are what?
White blood cells.
Okay. Now I'm thinking. Oh, okay. So, and thrombocytes are?
Platelets.
Platelets. Okay, good. Now, so erythropoietin is the chemical that stimulates the bone marrow to produce more red blood cells. We have talked about that before. So, these two chemicals are produced by the kidneys. One increases the blood pressure, which is the renin, and another stimulates the bone marrow to produce red blood cells, which is the erythropoietin. Activation of vitamin D. You must remember in NP1, I said with the help of sun, your skin produces a chemical that is called cholecalciferol. Anybody remember? Cholecalciferol? Okay. And your blood takes the cholecalciferol to the kidneys. I mentioned that at that time. Kidneys. And inside the kidney, cholecalciferol is converted to calcitriol, which is the active form of vitamin D. Vitamin D. This is inactive. Make sense? So, kidneys help to produce active vitamin D. Make sense? And why? Because inside the kidney you have converting enzyme. That's why it will happen only in the kidneys, because inside the kidney that converting enzyme is produced that will convert cholecalciferol to calcitriol. So those are the important functions of your urinary system. Okay.
Because of converting, what did you call it? Converting what?
Enzyme. CE. Okay. That is present inside the kidney. Make sense? It will convert the cholecalciferol to calcitriol. Now, the anatomy of the kidney. Kidneys are retroperitoneal, that I have already mentioned, located in the lumbar area, right? This is the lumbar part of the lumbar area of the body. And right kidney is slightly lower than the left kidney, right? Why? Because of the liver, right? And hilum is the area through which the blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics pass through. So this is called the hilum. Indentation in the medial side of the kidney through which the blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics, as well as the ureter. Remember the tube that takes the urine from the kidney to the bladder? All those structures pass through that area. Okay? That is the hilum. Now, if you cut the kidney and see inside, what you will see? You will see the outer part, which is called the cortex, and inner part is the medulla. Okay? And the kidney has a connective tissue covering, and that is called renal capsule. So this is the renal capsule that covers the kidney. Renal capsule. Okay. Now, let's see. This is inside the kidney. So you see, this is called renal capsule, which is also called fibrous capsule. Then you have the outer part. This is called the cortex. Okay, and inner part. This is called the medulla. Now, you see, in the medulla, you have triangular structures, pyramid-shaped structures. Have you seen pyramid picture? Okay. Where are the pyramids?
Egypt.
Okay. So, pyramids, right? In the medulla, like this. These are called pyramids. Okay. And the pointed part of the pyramid that is facing towards the hilum or inwards, that area is called papilla. Papilla. Okay. So these are pyramids, and the pointed end facing inwards, that is the papilla, renal papilla. And you see here what happens, the cortex, this is the cortex part, outer part, the cortex, cortical tissue invaginates, we say invagination, goes inwards like this, in between the pyramids. So the cortex goes in between the pyramids, and these are called columns. Renal invagination of cortical tissue in between the pyramids. Okay, so let's see. Outer covering is called what? Renal capsule. And then inside you have outer part which is called the cortex, and the inner part medulla, right? In the medulla you have triangular pyramids, right? And the invagination of cortical tissue between the pyramids form columns, renal columns, column structures like this. Okay, so, and the pointed tip of the pyramid facing inwards, that is called what? Papilla. Okay. Okay, so those are the structures you'll see inside. Now, another thing, just know that one pyramid and the adjacent columns together, this part, one pyramid and adjacent columns together is called lobule or lobe.
Wait, the indentations are the columns and that's the lobe.
Lobe, not lobule, lobe. So lobe is each pyramid and the adjacent columns. So this is pyramid and adjacent columns together is called a lobe. Okay. So what is your question? You have a question?
Oh, I said, so the indentation is the renal column and then
Invagination.
yeah.
And indentation is here, through which the ureter, blood vessels, nerve, lymphatics pass. That is called hilum. Is it clear? Okay. Okay, now, how the urine flows. This is important. Just know that urine is secreted here from the papilla of the pyramid. So the urine is secreted here from the papilla of the pyramid into the cup-shaped structures facing towards the papilla, and these are called minor calyces. Minor calyx is singular, calyx is plural. So look at me. This is the pyramid. Okay, this is the pyramid. So this is papilla, right? And you have cup-shaped, funnel-shaped structure here. So these are called minor calyces. Make sense? So urine is secreted into minor calyces. Then a number of minor calyces give the urine to this part, and that is called major calyx. So major calyces. And then from major calyces, urine is given to this part of the kidney, and that is called the pelvis. Hilum is this area, this part that receives the urine from major calyces. This is called renal pelvis. Make sense? And then from the renal pelvis, you see this is the renal pelvis area. Urine enters into the ureter. Enters into the ureter. Make sense? So now tell me, this is what? Pyramid, right? This part is called papilla, and the funnel facing towards papilla, minor calyces, right? And then from minor calyces to major calyces, right? From major calyces to the pelvis, which is the white part just before the ureter. Okay? And then enters into narrow tube, that is the ureter. Okay? And ureter takes to the bladder, and from the bladder through the urethra gets out. from the body. Is that clear? So that is the passage of urine, or pathway or flow chart of urine. Okay. Blood supply of the kidney. Blood supply of the kidney is very important because, you know, kidney filters, right, the blood and separates the toxic chemicals from the blood. So if blood flow is less than normal, then what will happen? Less filtration will occur, right? So kidneys will be able to separate the toxic chemicals less. Therefore, the kidneys blood flow is very important. Enough blood flow should be inside the kidney. So kidney can separate the toxic chemicals from the blood by filtration. Now, that's why about 1/4 of your cardiac output, the heart pumps the blood, right? How much blood gets out from the heart in 1 minute, that is the cardiac output. So we can simply say about 1/4 volume of your blood, circulating blood, enters into the kidneys. Okay? So your cardiac output is about 5,000 milliliter or 5 liter average cardiac output. Okay? In 1 minute, that much blood circulates in the body. Okay? And about 1/4 of it enters into the kidneys. That means what? Make sense? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So 1250 or 1/4 of your total circulating blood circulates inside the kidney. Now kidneys are like this. Of course, not 1/4 of your body, no, but 1/4 of your blood circulates inside the kidney. That means huge amount of blood is going into the kidneys. Make sense? Huge amount. So that is very important because kidneys do what? Separate the toxic chemicals from the blood. Okay. Now if kidney failure occurs, then kidneys will not be able to separate the toxic chemicals in your blood quickly. The toxic chemicals will accumulate. Make sense? And that will cause toxicity in the body, right? And when toxicity will occur, all other systems will be affected. Make sense? All your body organs and systems will be affected. So that's why kidney is very important, and kidney failure is really a big problem, right? Toxic chemicals, then you have to do dialysis. Basically, dialysis is what? You are taking the blood out, separating the toxic chemicals and putting it back. Okay? So,
You said dialysis was what?
dialysis machine is working as kidney. So what is the function of kidney? Right? Separating, right? Filtering the toxic chemicals. So blood goes through the dialysis machine and it will separate the toxic chemicals. Okay. So what is the blood supply inside the kidney? You need to know because it is very important. So from the abdominal aorta, you already know, renal arteries, right? Enter into the kidneys. Renal arteries. How many? How many renal arteries? How many kidneys you have? Okay, so how many renal arteries come out from abdominal aorta? Two, right? You remember? And and enter into the kidneys, right? And immediately after the renal artery enters through the hilum, it divides into two. So this is the kidney, and this is the renal artery. Renal artery. It splits into two branches. These are called segmental arteries. Two. And divides like this, enters into the kidney and anterior posteriorly, not superior inferiorly. Divides into anterior and posterior segmental arteries. And then you remember you have the pyramids. So these are the pyramids. You must remember the pyramids, and in between the pyramids, invagination of cortical tissue is called what? How many of you remember?
Columns.
Columns, very good. Right? So these are the columns, right? So from the segmental arteries, from those two segmental arteries, branches enter into the columns like this. Okay? These branches enter into the columns. And these arteries are called interlobar arteries, in between the lobes. So passes through the columns. Make sense? And then what happens, you see here, the interlobar artery gives branches like this in right angle, 90 degree like here. So give branches in right angle, and these branches are now running through the base of the pyramid, right? This is the base part of the pyramid. So running through along the base of the pyramid, not through, along the base of the pyramid. And these are called arcuate. Arcuate arteries. Okay? And then from the arcuate arteries, many tiny branches arise, and those branches are now in the cortex. You see, this is the cortex. So from arcuate, many branches arise, and these are called cortical radiate. Easy, because in the cortex now, these branches are in the cortex, that's why called cortical radiate arteries. Make sense? So, from abdominal aorta, if I repeat now, how many renal arteries arise? Two, because you have two kidneys, right? So, right renal artery enters into right kidney, left renal artery enters into left kidney. Is it clear? And immediately after it passes through the hilum, it divides into how many branches? Two, anterior posteriorly. These are called segmental arteries. Is it clear? Now the branches from segmental pass through the columns, and those branches are called what? Interlobar. Inter means in between, right? Interlobar arteries. And then the branches from interlobar, they run along the base of the pyramid, right? And those are called arcuate, from right angle, right? This is the arcuate, this is the interlobar, and this is the arcuate, so like right angle. And then from the arcuate, many branches arise, and those branches are now in the cortex, right? And those are called what? Cortical radiate arteries. Did you get it? Okay, but not, not done yet, okay? Still, we need to go. From cortical radiate, arterioles, that means small arteries, arise like this. And these are called afferent. Now these are so small, so these are called now arteriole. No more artery. You know, small arteries are called arterioles. So these are arterioles, okay? Called afferent arterioles from the cortical radiate. Yes. Is it clear? Okay, now I'll see only this part. I'm only looking at this part. So this is the cortical radiate and afferent. There are many arterioles. So cortical radiate and afferent arteriole. Okay. Now what happens is, see here, from the end of the afferent arteriole, capillary is formed, and that capillary is very important. This capillary forms coil-like structures. So the capillary arises from afferent arteriole and form coil-like structures, and these are called glomeruli. So this is a glomerulus, is singular. So this is another one here. This is another one here. So these are glomeruli. Tuft of capillary. We say tuft of capillary. Okay. Have you seen, like, you know, old ladies, your grandma, you know, used to knit the sweater from the wool, right? Tuft of wool. Okay, so it's like that. The capillary coils like this. Okay, form a like ball of capillary, and that is called glomerulus. Okay, and from the end of glomerulus, after the glomerulus is formed, the blood goes into this arteriole. This is called efferent arteriole. Okay, so now I can say that afferent arteriole brings the blood into the glomerulus, and after the blood circulates inside the glomerulus, the blood gets out through the efferent arteriole. So arriving A, exiting E, getting out. Okay, is it clear? So afferent and efferent. Now you tell me, this is a tuft of capillary. That means if I make it long, it will be very long, right? It's a ball of capillary, so it will be very long, right? So when blood enters into this, it will circulate for a long time. Make sense? Because this is a long, actually it is a long, very long capillary. So it stays there for a long time to finish circulating inside. And that is very important, that blood stays there for longer time. Why that is important? Because filtration occurs through the capillary wall. So here is the nephron. The functional unit of kidney. So this is a nephron. So this is a nephron, which is the functional unit of kidney. Now you see here what happens. Why this is important? Why blood needs to flow for longer time here? Because the wall of this capillary has fenestrations. This capillary is fenestrated capillary. How many of you remember three different types of capillary? Continuous, sinusoidal, and fenestrated. We talked about that. And continuous capillary has very tiny, clefts. Remember that? Sinusoidal, larger. But fenestrated have a lot of, pores, big pores and slits. Remember that? Clefts. So, the glomerular capillary is what type of capillary?
Fenestrated.
Fenestrated capillary. That means this capillary has largest holes, very big. So, easily the fluid from the blood can get out and enter into the nephron. That is filtration. Okay, so filtration occurs through the wall of the glomerular capillary or glomerulus. So filtration occurs here. Okay. Now the fluid from the blood has entered into the first part of the nephron. So that is the filtration. That is happening continuously. Make sense? And this fluid has water and other chemicals. Many different types of chemicals. Make sense? Fluid from the blood enters into the nephron. And that is called what? Process is called filtration, right? Filtration. Now, you have that fluid inside the nephron. Now, this fluid will start to move through the nephron. This is actually a tube-like structure. So, this part of nephron is called proximal convoluted tubule. This first part, okay? Proximal convoluted tubule. And this U-shaped part is called loop of Henle. Loop. It's a loop-like structure of Henle. I think H-E. We'll check it. Loop of Henle. And then this part is called distal convoluted tubule. So now you see, proximal convoluted. Why we say convoluted? Because it is not straight. See? Not straight, right? It's like this, convolution. So this is proximal, means first part. This is your upper limb, right? So which part is proximal, which part is distal? This part is proximal, right? And this is distal. So first part or early part is proximal part, right? And convoluted. And then loop of Henle, distal convoluted. So this is also not straight, it's convoluted. Okay? And the part, this part is called collecting duct. collecting duct. So those are the parts of a nephron. Now another thing you need to know is this very first part of the nephron is called Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule. Okay? I think this is E. Okay. So those are the parts of a nephron. Okay? Very first part that is facing towards the glomerulus is the Bowman's capsule, and then proximal convoluted tubule or PCT, then loop of Henle, then distal convoluted tubule, then collecting duct. Okay? Why this is called collecting duct? Because the number of nephron gives the urine to this part. So you see this is another